Okay, let's discuss this now by joining Joe Siracusa. He's in the Australian city of Perth. He's a professor of security and diplomacy at Curtin University. Welcome to you, Joe. Donald Trump against Kamala Harris. It's all been arranged. We know what we're dealing with Donald Trump. We've seen him on TV in these debates. He might not always get his facts straight, but he's a pretty sort of handy raconteur, I would say. What about Kamala Harris? Do we know how she performs in such a scenario?
Good morning, Neil. Well, look, as a prosecutor, she's used to going one-on-one with various people in a courtroom. I suspect she'll do very well. Unfortunately, she's very much tied to Joe Biden's policies. You know, very unusual things happen. We have a vice president who's running for president when the president himself is sort of incapable of being president. So she has to wear his policies. Turns out she was the last person in the room before he evacuated Kabul and things like that, and she doesn't have any real ideas about it. So she's sort of stuck with Joe Biden's policies, and she can't go into different directions. And a lot of people putting pressure on her, particularly Palestinians in America, Arabs and the Muslim voting blocs, to get her to change her mind about American policy, but she can't do it. Now, Donald Trump has got her in his sights, and he's going to do what he does. You know, he tends to treat his opponents like a pinata. He just hits them with a stick and see if they open up after a while. And his ability to abuse and insult his opponents did very well in 2016 when he got rid of 15 Republican opponents. Though in that race, he was a 7-2 favorite. He wasn't the favorite to win the 2016 election, but he was able to do it. And so we got Kamala Harris now. He's up against another woman who seems to be able to rattle his cage somewhat. And the odds are now polling very close. Wall Street Journal says they're an even tie. But keep in mind, you can have the polls show an even tie, but you can have a runaway on election day. So Trump will continue to do what he's doing because, Neil, he can't do anything else. You know, he has no imagination. He is essentially what he was 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 6 years ago. He just goes out there and he just attacks his opponent until he finds a weak spot. The trouble is he's in the election today, he's going to have to attack her policies and in return have policies that he could present of his own. So I think the American people just a little fed up with the act going on right now, and they'd like to hear a little more about what the future looks like.
The debates obviously make for great TV, and they seem to be influential. If you look at the most recent one, which seemed to be significant enough to finish off the presidency of Joe Biden. Do you think that these upcoming debates between now and the election, will they decide the winner? Because people will talk, you know, the two candidates, they'll talk about policy, but do you think that the actual performance and what they say, how they say it, is more significant and that it could decide the election?
I think so. Look, Neil, I've seen every debate since 1960 when I was a university student, when Kennedy went into a debate with Richard Nixon. So, we thought that was an important debate. We've had some debates that are less and more. But in this era of social media and television, I think these debates are going to be crucial. As you've mentioned in passing now, one debate finished off Joe Biden's 50-year career of all things. I mean, finished him off. I think the debate is very important. And particularly how television and the social media interpret how they did on the night. So not only do the candidates have to perform well, but they have to be seen to be performing well in order to, and keep in mind also that 45% of the American people might not vote at all. We don't have compulsory voting in the United States, so a lot of folks can stay home. So these debates are designed to get out the independent voter and to get Americans who don't normally vote, off their couches and into the voting poll for once. So I think they are crucial, particularly in this age of social media and the dominance of television.
Yep, any mistake could be crucial when it's live on TV, as I know well. Appreciate your time. Joe Siracusa, Professor of Security and Diplomacy at Curtin University.